for botany bay.
Hi, I'm Jack. Welcome to Horrible First Fleet. Did you know that England in the late 1700s was a pretty horrible place? The place was really crowded with people living in very poor conditions. There had been a population explosion, and now there wasn't enough food, work, or housing for them all. The jails were overcrowded with people convicted of stealing petty things just to survive, like bread. Did you know that stealing goods worth more than a shilling, which is about $50 today, was punishable by hanging, even children? Transportation meant a long journey to Botany Bay. Captain Arthur Phillip was in charge.
Did you know that most of the convicts in the First Fleet were from the main cities of England? Well, they did. Most of the convicts were from places like London, Middlesex, and Cambridge. They had done petty things like stealing cloth, food, or small objects from houses. But there were some that had committed highway robberies and other more serious crimes. These people were sentenced to death. Originally, they changed it to transportation of life, for life. You could be transported for life as well as 5 years, 7 years, or 14 years. However, because of Australia was so far away, not many of them went back to England. Here's some interesting facts of the 753 convicts that came to Australia on the First Fleet. 4 of them were men, 188 were women, 17 were children. That's right, children were convicted just like adults back then. Here's a story about one boy, John Hudson, who was 9 when he was convicted of stealing. Occupation. Chimney sweep. Age 9. Okay, you're off to the Bailey now. The Bailey, or Old Bailey as it was known, is the main courthouse in London at the time.
Jack, how old are you?
Going on 9.
What business were you bred up in?
Nothing, sometimes a chimney sweeper.
Do you have a father or a mother?
Dead.
And how long ago were they dead?
I don't know.
I see you were charged with stealing. I find you guilty and I sentence you to 7 years transportation.
That was 1783. It took 3 years before John even set sail for Australia. This was not unusual for many of the convicts had been waiting on the convict ships at Portsmouth for up to 7 months before they left in May 1787.
Life on board the convict ships. Conditions were crowded and cramped for the convicts who were housed for long periods of time, behind bars and often chained for parts of the journey. Conditions below the decks were hot and humid and smelly. There wasn't much fresh air down there. Diseases such as scurvy broke out and about 40 convicts died during the voyage. There were 11 ships, 2 battleships, HMS Ceres, HMS Supply, 6 transport convict ships, Alexander, the Friendship, the Charlotte, the Prince of Wales, the Lady Pembroke, and the Scarborough, and 3 store ships, the Golden Globe, the Fishburne, and the Boulder. The trip. On the way to the new colony, the First Fleet stopped at Rio de Janeiro and the Cape of Good Hope to supply the fleet with food, water. The trip took 8 months with the fleet to arrive in Botany Bay, 18th January 1788. Blood-curdling colony. The First Fleet arrived in Botany Bay on January 18, 1788, but rather than finding a land like their home, they were met with a very different land. Botany Bay had no fresh water and poor land for growing food, so they sailed on to Port Jackson, which had fresh water and better land, a deep harbour. Captain Arthur Phillip called it Sydney Cove, naming it after Lord Sydney, who was a government official at the time. It was the 26th of January, a familiar day. Life in the colony was hard. The three supply ships had enough food for the journey and until they were able to become self-sufficient. Sydney Cove had poor soil and was no good for farming. The convicts had come from big cities. They didn't know how to farm or fish. For food, they had to rely on the food they brought with them. Everyone from Governor Phillip down were on rations. Some convicts and Marines were sent to Norfolk Island. The supply went to Cape Town and went to China to buy more food. Did you know that the food situation got so bad they ate rats, crows, dogs, and an occasional kangaroo and emu to survive? They even forgot to bring things like extra cloth or cloth and good tools to chop down trees and farm. They were in a bad shape due to rationing. Very little work was done. A few convicts tried to escape, thinking other settlements in China were close by. Some died and some came back that were punished. Because the conditions were so tough, the guards treated the convicts harshly. If they did not work hard, they would be punished by having their rations reduced or being flogged with the cat-o'-nine tails was particularly vicious. First Fleet settlers weren't the only people in Sydney Cove. There were traditional people, the Aboriginals. There were worry of the newcomers, shy but sometimes also shy. The newcomers tried to eat what the Aboriginals ate but did not find it good to eat. The First Fleet had much contact with the Aboriginals like Abaroo and Benwell, Both were European-both and learned English and helped Governor Phillip understand Aboriginal cultures and language, but the flu of smallpox were brought with the first fleet. This was given to the Aboriginals, and many of them died. Most of the first fleet saw Aboriginals as savages and uncivilized, treating them as they were stupid.
After serving their sentences, ex-convicts were given land grants, a gift from the authorities, as long as they did something like farming with it. 30 acres were given to a single male, and you got extra if you were married and if you had children. Some famous ex-convicts are Francis Greenway and James Roos. Officers and guards were also given grants. Well, that's all from us here in the colony. See you next time on Horrible First Fleet.
Farewell to old England forever. Farewell to my rumskulls as well. Farewell to the well-known old baby, where I once used to cut such a swell.